Welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, is now on the docket. Since Tuesday, it has been in committee meetings. Michael, TPP. This idea, I think it came up originally maybe 8 years ago. A success was launched, and then the United States glommed onto it.
Well, a few of the small Pacific nations put together what they wanted was an absolutely clean, modern 21st century trade agreement, an economic partnership.
A regional.
Yeah, and those four were the core, but now we have 12 countries, including the United States and Japan, who are trying to put together a bloc, let's face it, an autarkic bloc of about 40% of the world's GDP, which will become a trade area.
Right.
And this will be in contrast to a trade area centered around China, which China has been trying to develop. And that trade area excludes the United States.
And TPP excludes China.
Right now. So it's a tit for tat. And in this case, the United States and Japan have pushed the accelerator to move on this as quickly as possible in order to basically head off the Chinese effort to put together its own basic sphere of influence in the Asia-Pacific region. That has led to the fact that everything's being negotiated in secret,
right?
In order so that there is not the effect of outside influence, outside interests, and
whittling down, taking things that I don't like, that sort of thing.
That has all been excluded, and everything's been negotiated in secret. Of course, people have participated in it. In at least there are special interests in the United States, particularly the pharmaceutical industry, which has clearly been pushing certain aspects of
the IP extension.
All these different kinds of interest groups pushing in from the outside, but that the actual content of the negotiations has been in secret. And that came out brutally during the debate this week on the introduction of the bills on TPP, when the opposition asked for documentation.
They asked for documentation, and they asked for the appearance of Mr. Ahmadi, who was the minister in charge of TPP, who was removed from office, and they want him to answer questions as well.
No, he resigned. He wasn't. He did Mr. Abe a favor, but nevertheless, he's supposedly no longer on that job, so he doesn't have to speak.
And he's also on sick leave.
Oh, and he's also on sick leave. But be that as it may, the opposition wants to hear about it, and they want to know what he said. Well, in trying to know what they said, they asked for the transcripts of conversations.
Well, wouldn't you think that in a polite society, I mean, they would provide the documents?
Ah, yes, they did provide the documents, and they were astonishingly bad for the government, in that almost everything except the title of the document would be blacked out. When, where, who, what, it's all just a mass of black.
These are thousands of pages.
And doesn't that make for great political advertising, great political imagery? Here, this is what the government showed us, and it's just a field of black.
Well, you know, we watch this all the time, and we watch the jousting that goes on, but this is really a call to arms. This is, you know, this is passive resistance. You want the documents? Sure, here are the documents, and it's a meaningless gesture.
Well, the thing is, if there were a DPJ government in power, they would have done exactly the same thing, and that's the government's argument, in that in these kinds of negotiations, there has to be confidentiality. True. It doesn't, however, play in very well with the narrative that has evolved around the Abe administration, that they are obsessed with secrecy and suppressing the people's right to know, especially if that involves the press. So that this just feeds into the general narrative, the general sense that this administration doesn't want us to know because they're doing things that are nefarious and they are trying to hide what they're doing, and we, the people, are losing our beautiful country.
We're here from the government. We're here to help you.
In this case, we're here from the government and we can't tell you what we're doing.
Well, I think that's one of the most upsetting things about TPP worldwide. I mean, with the United States and Canada as well. Yeah. But the Prime Minister went to the United States. He met with the President of the United States, and obviously, TPP was talked about, but the situation in the United States with regards to TPP and the situation here in Tokyo is very, very different.
Well, the fact is that the opposition introduced TPP. It was under Prime Minister Kan of the DPJ that this entire process really got going in Japan. He saw TPP as the third opening after the arrival of the black ships under Commander Perry, after the occupation. This was going to be the third opening of Japan because this new partnership would open up Japan to competition.
Just open the logjam.
And it would result in a flood of creativity, innovation, and the abandonment of bad business practices, most of which are to the benefit of the LDP and its clients in industry and in agriculture. And the weird thing has been watching the opposition switch sides in terms of that. In terms of the debate that we've had this week, the opposition, both communist and non-communist, have been pounding on the administration for the abandonment of Japanese agriculture. That under the TPP, under the liberalization of agricultural trade, that Japanese farmers and Japanese agriculture are going to be completely wiped out. Now, that's probably true, but there are many, many countermeasures that the government has already put into play, and the government can say, we've done this and this and this. But in terms of rhetoric, this idea that suddenly it's the communists and the opposition which are protecting Japan's farmers when it's supposedly the job of the LDP has been an interesting switch of roles.
We are in a diet session that will end when the upper house election is called, probably around July.
It's probably going to end in June. The general sense is that there's not going to be any extensions. That'll be exactly the 150 days, and they're going to get the TPP vote in by that 150-day mark. Now, that's going to be really interesting because, as we've noted in previous broadcasts, what we have is a brand new minister who has to discuss things, having himself not been at these blacked out sessions, that he can't. That's also one of the more interesting possibilities, that everything's blacked out because then he doesn't have anything to answer for.
The documents are blacked out. Mr. Amadi is unavailable.
Strangely.
His second in command is now the ambassador to Great Britain, and so he is kind of unavailable. They have 40 hours in the lower house for committee discussion. The Speaker of the House has set that up. They will make a vote for it.
And it's on a lot of bills. It's not just one bill. It's a whole slew of things. It's a huge slew of things that have to be changed. And the possibility of things going wrong is tremendous.
Right.
So you're right. They probably are trying to minimize the capacity of the opposition to get any traction on these bills. It's just going to be passed secretly. And I think that the administration is fairly confident that even though it has been attacking the farmers, both through the reforms of Nokyo, the abandonment of the Gentan payments for not growing rice, that has been eliminated, that this has been generally an anti-agriculture administration, that nevertheless, even though the structure of the districts would make agriculture extremely important in the peripheral prefectures, nevertheless, they think they've got enough of their own machine on board that they don't even have to worry about this TPP issue.
Maybe, maybe not. But the crux of the issue is that if they don't pass TPP in this session before they close down for the upper house election, they have to start all over with the new administration, with a new set of upper house, well, half of the upper house member city.
They'll have a whole new set of things here domestically, and they will be in a great deal of, I don't know, you'd call it, let's say, they'll have a new situation domestically in terms of, the new diet, and they'd have to have a new cabinet because everything's been redone. And we have the situation of the United States presidential elections, which so far have been anti-TPP.
Yes, TPP does not quite ring very well without the United States. I mean, they are probably the biggest participant.
They are the biggest participant. There's no other economy bigger, but they are also the biggest participant in terms of manipulating what needs to be done. And with the United States now currently in an absolutely disastrously bizarre presidential race where such deals don't seem to have any hope whatsoever of being passed, that Japan does not have a strong front to be able to say, look, we've passed it, let's get going with this, means that the entire deal might be out of the window.
We have not talked about a double election. We haven't talked about the consumption tax issue. We haven't talked about the release of the GPIF numbers that will come out after the election. I mean, there is a scenario here where the prime minister could look really bad after this election.
Well, the thing is, they're pushing all out in order to change the narrative. When this eruption came up about childcare and its availability, they
jumped on it.
They jumped on it.
Right.
In terms of they're looking at a slowdown in the economy, they've jumped on it by pushing the fiscal.
Let's spend 80% of our annual budget in the first 6 months.
In terms of public works,
great idea.
Front loading 80% of this. They have talked about giving vouchers or some kind of special coupons to poor young people to mimic their program for the elderly poor. This is just, they're going all out in any way to win this election. And great, that's fine. You win, you get 6 years of that half of the House of Councilors, but then you're going to still have to govern. And when you've absolutely promised everybody everything, sure, you can stiff them all afterward because, hey, there's no election.
Right.
But darn, it's going to be hard to be credible internationally.
Thank you very much, Michael. These issues are tightly interwoven. We love to watch it. We love to report to you on it. Please continue to watch. Hit that subscribe button. See you next week.